So sometimes when we conceptualize ideas, it comes in a rational form or in the world of ideas, and we talk about the empirical evidence. Sometimes your ideas, just before it gets to the empirical side of it, where you can observe and see, is distorted, or when it's distorted, you could just make some kind of mistake to the extent that you don't even get to see the empirical aspect of it. So for us not to get to that, when you have this kind of idea, how do you really ensure that such ideas are for the betterment of people? Because when you talk about empirical evidence now, you must be able to show it. But from the idea stage, because that's it, when you talk about a think tank like the NESG, it is basically what has to do with a world of ideas coming into being before we can now say, okay, this is the empirical aspect of it. But before we get there, how do we ensure that such ideas emanating from members or the think tank is not distorted? It is just for the betterment of people.
You see, look, you can never divorce the human element, okay, from public policy, okay. And I don't think that, from a public policy perspective, I don't think that any government or any agency or commission sets out to do anything wrong, okay. You put a law in place. Now, the process of lawmaking or the process of articulating a policy is supposedly very rigorous, okay? But then it's not unusual that in the course of implementing that policy, you might find a few things creeping up that you may not have thought of. It doesn't mean that it was not well thought out. It doesn't mean that you meant to do any ill to society or to a group of people. But then it behoves on, say, a ministry or a minister or a government to, when those things come up, to then say, listen, wow, in the light of what has now emerged, what changes do we need to make to ensure that this policy works well? Okay? And if you go back to the issue of privatization, for instance, there's a regulatory body, or so to speak. The regulatory body is supposedly the Bureau for Public Enterprises, in a way. Okay? That is the body that sort of shepherds the process and is supposed to ensure that the concessionaires or the new owners of this new company, that they keep to the terms of the contract between them and, say, government, or between them and society, whatever it is. It's their responsibility. And so if they have not done so, then I believe that they need to rethink the strategy for engaging these companies, or for engaging the buyers or the managers of these entities. That is what must happen. But the entire process must not be condemned on account of the excesses of a few people.
Now, this economic management team, they've been put in place. Some who've got strong links to the NESG are also part of it. But then, is there, since, you're also a research and advocacy group, is there any research, for instance, which you think will be of immense benefit to this group? Because there are a whole lot of people who wonder, what role does the ivory tower play in all of government policy formulation?
Ivory tower.
The ivory tower. What role do they play? Does the NESG think about bringing them together with government? Because, at the end of the day, they always see government as us and them. How does the NESG think to bridge this gap?
No, absolutely. We're a think tank, and we conduct research from time to time, and then we engage professionals. We also have some people in-house who are experts, and then sometimes we engage with external parties, some from the universities, some from research institutes, not just in Nigeria, but also from around the world. And then that's the way to go, okay? That's the way to go. And unfortunately, and this is something that I've had the privilege of discussing so many times, there's this feeling that with the advent, because of the long years of military dictatorship, that the ivory tower or the university system was completely compromised, was completely undermined, okay, such that today, people acquire all sorts of promotions and titles without any kind of rigor, without actually being able to demonstrate this in real terms when they are taken to task. There's, mind-boggling cases of plagiarism, people copying things they haven't done in the name of research, and thereby getting promoted. And so, but I think that, and then the crises that are, continue to plague the system, the incessant strikes, the incessant demands for improved conditions of service, have also not helped matters. Okay, and so government is denied, really an opportunity to harness very, very, very good ideas from these people whose responsibility should be actually to constantly engage themselves in thinking, in researching, and coming up with policy options that will help to improve the public policy in Nigeria and indeed social and economic development in our country. And it is something that I believe is going to take time to resolve. Okay, and it's something that's permeated the entire system in terms of the quality of the graduates that are coming out today. You want to hear people who people come for job interviews and they can barely express themselves. They can barely even write a coherent paragraph for you. All of these things are symptoms of very deep decay within the educational system.
You're a private sector-driven think tank. Do you work with the government ones? Do you work with NIPS, for instance?
Yes, we have relations with NIPS, but we haven't collaborated to do any research with them.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's take a look at Vision 2020.
Yes.
Do you still think it's alive?
Do we still think it's alive?
Yeah, is it realizable?
Well, frankly, I must say that it's tough. It's pretty tough, okay? And I cannot say that under the present circumstances, okay, the structure of our economy, the state of our economy, that it's realizable. I cannot say that in good conscience, okay? But it's not impossible. It's not impossible.
You're talking about economic distortions in the economy. What are some of the distortions? I'll ask you to expatiate on that.
The very fact that, 50 years after independence, this economy continues to rely solely on oil, for instance. Okay? It's a major, major distortion. The fact that, 50 years on, we're still dealing with issues of subsidy. A subsidy system that goes to just half a dozen people. Okay? I don't know how many times or how frequently you get out of Lagos. I can say to you, for instance, let's take the petroleum sector, that apart from Lagos and perhaps Abuja, there are few places in this country where you go and actually buy petrol at 65 naira a litre.
Yeah, that's a problem, because you see,
diesel is the same thing.
Pardon me.
These are things that we have to deal with all the time.
Dr. Wike,
yes.
Pardon me, that was one of the achievement when President Goodluck Jonathan was about to come back for his term, for his 4-year term. He said that was one of his achievements. In fact, the Minister for Petroleum then, or she's still the Minister for Petroleum now, said that was one of the achievements. First of all, queues had been eradicated and you could get to buy all of those products at the price they were supposed to be sold. You think that's still not the case? Has that changed?
Well, I can say to you that yes, the fact that there is adequate product supply does not mean that it is available at a certain price. Okay, that much is clear and it's verifiable. Yes, I admit to the fact that yes, there's been stable product supply, there's been improved supply. Yes, the queues have been completely eliminated. Okay, and let's not make it sound like it's rocket science. Nigerians are entitled to petroleum product supply.